Welcome in, you guys. My name is Sai, and today we are here to talk about One Piece Chapter 1122. And oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We got Joy Boy, Emth, the Gorosei, Watsuki, and even Pirate Killer Captain Kobe, all in this week's chapter. So without further ado, let's just hop straight into it, starting with the beginning of the chapter, where we actually see that this week's cover page is replaced by a cover request. The request this week, though, comes from a very special fan of One Piece, and that fan is the My Hero Academia author. So yes, 22 years ago, he sent Oda a drawing of Smoker to be featured in the One Piece manga. It did end up getting featured, and now today, to honor MHA's conclusion, Oda decided to repay the favor by bringing Smoker back in one more time. Wholesome to see, right? Even if you're not a fan of MHA, you gotta respect what they accomplished, right? So now, cutting through the cheese and diving right into the first page of the chapter, we are back in reaction piece mode, which makes a lot of sense given how last week's chapter ended off, right? Vegapunk told the world that not only does the One Piece exist, but whoever finds it holds the fate of the world in their hands. So of course, we gotta visit some people and just see what the general consensus and vibe is around the world. Turns out we go to a tropical island first up, a brand new island, mind you. We see some guys with tribal tattoos, and one guy on the far right actually has a tattoo that kind of looks like a sun symbol, which, you know, now that we have the whole sun thing going on with Luffy, I do look at those tattoos a little bit closer than I should. But yeah, that was pretty cool. We also go to a brand new winter island as well, and they're worried if their country will sink. And then last but not least, we see a bunch of pirates gearing up to go find the One Piece. What's pretty cool about the pirates we see in this chapter is that it's actually an old reference to Oda, Watsuki, and Take. And no, I did not figure that out myself. That is actually thanks to Sandman over on Twitter. Apparently, Oda drew them a long time ago, and he decided to bring them back in to the canon story, which I personally am just a huge fan of. I love Easter eggs like this, and hey, it's the final saga, so if Oda wants to throw these in while he has time, why not, right? Why not? Why not? It does make me wonder if these guys will come into play in the story, though. And I know that might sound a little bit ridiculous since it's kind of like a Easter egg and gag, but here's the thing. Back when we were at Marineford, after Whitebeard declared that the One Piece is real and it's out there, and we got Reaction Piece, 500 chapters ago, we actually met Brownbeard there and a couple of other pirate groups. And then lo and behold, post time skip, we meet Brownbeard again, and Luffy actually interacts with him. So I kind of look at these pirates and I'm like, okay, Oda could go that route, or they could just be completely fodder. We don't really know, but it's a nice throw in. It's a nice throw in. The next place we go to is Impel Down, and all these prisoners, man, they are getting riled up. They're like, yo, the pirates are running the show. We need to get out there, leave some pillaging for us boys. And I'm just like, damn, dude, what are the Impel Down guards going to do about these prisoners? They talked about maybe transferring them up somewhere higher to escape the rising waters. That's something that Magellan and Doflamingo were talking about. Will they actually do that? I don't know, right? Like, if I was a guard, I would not want to be at work today because there's a good chance that these guys are going to want to break out and wreak some havoc. And I don't want that. What's kind of interesting, though, is that throughout Impel Down, we got the Doflamingo reaction, we got the Magellan reaction, we have random prisoner reactions, but we didn't get a Bon Clay reaction. And we know he's there. So yeah, Bon Clay must have heard this message, and I feel like if there were a time for him to escape, it would probably be pretty soon. With all this chaos amidst, it's the perfect time to stage a jailbreak and join back up with Luffy. Bon Clay, I believe in ya. But here's the thing too, right? As far as Bon Clay goes, I'm not too sure if he would go right to Luffy, right? Like, imagine we meet Bon Clay at Elbaf, right? That would be crazy. But I'm not too sure if he would do that, or if he would go with the other Impel Down prisoners and maybe join Cross Guild, which wouldn't be that bad either, right? Like, he would go there with Doflamingo since he's also an Impel Down, and then he meet up with his old friend Buggy, Mr. 3, Mr. 1, and his old boss, Crocodile. So in my opinion, I do think that Bon Clay has a lot of doors and options open for him, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. If Bon Clay stages this Impel Down escape, where do you think he would go, and why? So the next group we see are the Marines, and they're not too happy, right? All we really get are some reactions from what seem to be new Vice Admirals alongside Vice Admiral Stainless, and they're just pretty angry at Vegapunk's message. You know, they're like, hey, Vegapunk, how could you do this? And I don't blame them, right? I mean, Vegapunk is supposed to be on their side, yet here he is encouraging piracy. But of course, he's only doing it for the benefit of the world, right? Warning people that the waters are rising, telling people that the One Piece holds the key and the answer to everything. It's like, you know, he's doing a public service, but also he's inspiring a lot of criminals to take to the seas. I mean, look at Impel Down, for example. Those guys are hooting and hollering and are ready to go back outside and cause some havoc. Like, yeah, dude, he's putting overtime on these guys' desk, and I don't envy the common Marine right now. The next Marine we go to, though, is a really notable one, and we get a very interesting declaration, right? So we cut over back to Kobe and Sword, and Kobe recalls back to the time when he first met Luffy, and when Luffy said he wanted to be king of the pirates and find the One Piece. And after going through those really sweet and tender moments, Kobe says, Luffy-san, I have to stop you from achieving your dream. So I've seen a couple of different interpretations on this Kobe section. I've seen one group say that this means that Kobe is going to solely gun for Luffy and end his life and dreams once and for all. And I'll admit, that's where I was at first. But I've realized that there's a second option, an option that a lot of you guys have been talking about. And that is Kobe and Sword going after the One Piece, which makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, last chapter, Kobe was included in the Find the One Piece page. And not to mention, a couple chapters back, when we last saw Sword, Helmeppo was talking about the One Piece in regards to the sunken islands. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sword starts going after the poneglyphs, but the real question becomes, can they do it? Right? You know, I don't want to undermine Kobe. I do think Kobe is the Garp of the next generation, but he's not there yet, right? As much as we love Kobe, as strong as he is, and as much potential he has, he's not quite at Sun God Nika level yet, or Yonko level even, right? Like, he's nowhere close. So I do think he needs more experience under his belt, and I can't imagine Sword right now going to Whole Cake Island, getting the poneglyph, you know, going to Wano, getting the poneglyph, finding, you know what I mean? Like, that is such an arduous journey, and I just don't know how he's going to do that. And even if he wants to forsake the poneglyphs and go after the big name pirates like Luffy, Blackbeard, Shanks, and Buggy, I don't think Kobe can beat any of these pirate groups. So I do think he is going to have to maybe join back up with the regular Marines like a Kainu and some admirals, but I'm not too sure. I mean, when it comes to Kobe, he is quite literally potential man. In my honest opinion, I feel like Kobe definitely needs a time skipper training arc to be around the power level of the pirates he wants to take down. Because in my eyes, at least, he's not quite there yet. The next group we cut over to is Cross Guild, and we get the same song and dance with Cross Guild as per usual. I'm not even kidding. It's the same thing. Buggy hypes up his group, acting like this benevolent leader, this powerful leader. His subordinates eat it up, and then we have Crocodile and Mihawk ready to beat Buggy up on the side. Like, it is the same cycle, man. It's the Ouroboros, man. And it's pretty funny. But this time around, though, Crocodile doesn't look like he's in the ass-beating mood. Instead of, you know, get over here, it's time to kill you, you know, instead of the anger eyes, Crocodile actually looks like he wants to talk. And same with Mihawk. You know, Mihawk has the ... So it looks like Crocodile and Mihawk might actually be on board with this One Piece venture now that Vegapunk's message has played out. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Crocodile always wanted the ancient weapons, and boom, ancient weapons are now important, they're confirmed, and a lot of other people are going to be looking for them. As far as Mihawk goes, I'm not too sure what's going through his mind. You know, Mihawk doesn't exactly have any ambitions right now. You know, like, before this, he was literally just chilling in his castle, drinking wine and fighting baboons. Like, what does Mihawk want out of this? Crocodile wants power, but Mihawk simply wants peace of mind. Maybe the rising waters are threatening his lifestyle, so that's why Mihawk wants to take action. But to me, at least, he's still a complete mystery. So now, the next update we get revolves around the Blackbeard Pirates. And we actually see the Cannery Devon, Van Augur, and Garibou are sailing somewhere. You know, ooh, where are they going? I don't know. But it looks like Devon ends up calling Marshall D. Teach, and she says, hey, this Caribou guy wants to see you. He apparently has some information. If you want, Captain, we can kill him right here. But Blackbeard says, no. Bring him over to me. I'll see if his information is really good. And if it's bad, then I'll put him in the ground, you know? So it's pretty cool. Blackbeard is definitely going to be gunning for those ancient weapons as well, since that is the prime information that Caribou has. And I'm so excited to see how this all pans out. And here's the thing too, right? I've seen people saying that Blackbeard will not believe Caribou. He won't believe in his information. It's too good to be true. But you have to keep in mind, Caribou said that he had information for Blackbeard well before Vegapunk's message started playing. So, with that being the case, there is more reason to trust Caribou in his information than not. And here's the thing about Blackbeard and his crew if they were to go after the ancient weapons. I believe that Blackbeard would have the easiest time out of any pirate group when it comes to obtaining them. And that is simply because Blackbeard has been known to split his crew apart if need be, right? We had Burgess at Dressrosa, Van Augur, and Devon here on Egghead Island. We had Blackbeard and his 4 boys over on Winter's Island. He had a crew stationed at Hachinosu. Lafitte, we don't know where Lafitte's even at. So it's like, dude, Blackbeard loves splitting up his pirate crew to accomplish a lot in a small amount of time. So the minute he learns about Poseidon, the minute he learns about Pluton, I can easily see Blackbeard saying, hey, let's send 2 groups over here. Let's just cut the crew right down the middle and go. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be real. As much as I love Fishman Island and as much as I love Wano, those places are going to be absolutely cooked if the Blackbeard Pirates show up. When it comes to Wano, Blackbeard could easily use his Gurgur no Mi, break down the walls and just take Pluton for himself. And then as far as Poseidon goes, I feel like that's a mission he would send Devon and Augur to as well. I mean, when it comes to Devon, she is known as a head huntress. She loves taking the heads of beautiful women. And we do know that Garp and a lot of other characters in One Piece have referred to Shirahoshi as beautiful. So I could see Devon, you know, being paired up on that mission, going over there, kidnapping Shirahoshi, and then it could be a whole gag where she's like, hey, you're pretty, I want to cut your head off, but Teach said not to because you're an ancient weapon. Like, I feel like these interactions are gonna be beautiful. And as far as the Blackbeard Pirates going to Wano, I feel like that one is pretty set in stone right now, considering the fact that we're following Yamato's Wano journey, and the most conflict we've had in the past 10 volumes of it has just been kids throwing rocks at Yamato. You know, that's not exactly what Oda's there to show us. I'm sure at some point there will be some greater conflict or revelation that comes out of Yamato's journey, whether it be with Pluton, the reemergence of Kaido Big Mom, or Blackbeard showing up to Wano, or maybe even Cross Guild. I feel like we are set up for some pretty big Wano action in the near future. I mean, hell, going back to the Jerma cover page story, we started with Jerma, and then we got the Blackbeard Pirates kidnapping Pudding, and then we got Neo Mads in the Vegapunk flashback, right? Like, these cover pages, man, they get absolutely insane, and I don't think Yamato's will be any different in that regard. It's just a matter of how long will it take until something big happens there. So now, going back to good old Egghead Island, we see Dr. Vegapunk. And this guy, this guy is still going on with his message. We don't really know what he's trying to say, or if it's the end of a sentence. Like, I'm not too sure what's going on here. I'm gonna be quite honest. I'm gonna call it how it is. But we see Vegapunk, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. He says, that is the truth. Joy Boy, ... He ... And then it gets cut off by Warkity, because Warkity slams into Emth once again. But this time around, though, unlike the last, the Denden Mushi transponder snail has died. So this message is 100% not coming back at a later date. And it's like, yo, like, what was Vegapunk going to say? Like, you know, he brought up Joy Boy's name, which is something that I bet the whole world just heard, right? You know, like, the whole world just heard Joy Boy's name being spattered out there, so I bet a lot of people are just really confused now. But it's like, yo, like, I feel like Vegapunk still had a lot of wind in the tank. His message wasn't over yet. And it's not super shocking that that's the case. I mean, when you think about it, right? Clover his final words were going to be the Ancient Kingdom's names, but that got cut off. So with Vegapunk, reading the books from Ohara, learning about what happened there, going through Clover's research, I think that he did know the Ancient Kingdom's name, and that might have been how he wanted to end his message as well. But it looks like we're not going to get that, right? No matter what Vegapunk was trying to say, that has thoroughly been put in the ground, thanks to Warcudi. But Warcudi, though, isn't the only Gorosei member trying to put in some work in this chapter, because we actually see V Nasujoro jumping up, and he's getting ready to slice that Thousand Sunny out of the sky, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, right? I mean, because they talked about how they wouldn't be able to escape as long as Venus is around, and then that is why Atlas flew up there, took Venus away, and blew up with him. So it's crazy that he's already back in action. But yeah, it turns out that Venus's reappearance in this chapter is why Zoro last chapter had the little exclamation mark above his head. He saw that this guy was coming from the Labo phase, and they're kind of sitting ducks. And given the circumstance, I am really curious to see if Zoro could have been able to block this attack from Venus. Of course, we don't get to see how it plays out because Emth steps in here in a little bit. But yeah, I would have loved to see just one last clash before they go, especially since they're both wielding Kitetsu blades. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think Zoro could have saved the Thousand Sunny, or no, do you think Venus would have sliced the Thousand Sunny in half? So now though, on to the big part of the chapter. We got Emth taking front stage. So Emth and Luffy have a little conversation, and he's like, hey, you there. I wanted to apologize to you. I knew that there was no chance he would still be alive, but you young man, you look just like him. Which, of course, makes a lot of sense given the fact that they both had Sun God Nika powers and they both have a Strawhat, so, it just works out like that. But also, he says, hey, these memories, man, they just came flooding through me. I hope Joy Boy forgives me because I failed to make Joy Boy king. And I think that's so big, right? There's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things to take away. One is that Joy Boy wanted to be king. What does the king title mean to Joy Boy? We don't really know, right? Luffy wants to find the One Piece and be king of the pirates, but that's because he wants to be the freest person in the world. So maybe Joy Boy had the same mindset in the past, and since the king of the pirates title didn't exist back then, they instead simply called this person the king. Or, to play devil's advocate, maybe he wanted to be king of the world. Maybe he wanted to be a character like IMU and how they ruled the Celestial Dragons and the 20 families. Or maybe, he wanted to be like Blackbeard, Roxy Zebek, and be the actual king of the world. There's a lot of things this could mean, but of course, since Joy Boy is going to be a good person, more or less, I do think they just wanted to be free, kind of like how Luffy wants to be. So Luffy says, king, ? And then Emth ignores what Luffy says and just says, hey, you there, what's your name? And Luffy says, Monkey D. Luffy. And then Emth says D, and he just starts laughing it up, man. He's probably just really happy that the D actually survived all the way until now. And that is pretty crazy when you really contextualize it, right? Imagine going to sleep. You're cryogenically frozen, and then you wake up 2,000 years later. Yeah, I know that's crazier than 900, but you wake up 2,000 years later in this hypothetical. And then you see your family name is still out there. That would be really wholesome. I would laugh too. And I bet that's what Emth is feeling right here. So he looks at Luffy one last time and he says, I want to thank you for letting me hear that rhythm once more. And that's when he whips out the knot, and then Conqueror Hockey starts blasting around him. And he says, don't die, Joy Boy. I won't let you die. And then yo. All the fodder nameless Marines start passing out. Dahl, I can't believe Dahl is still up. I'm gonna be quite honest. I thought the Vice Admirals would pass out. But no, Dahl and who is that loser on the bottom right? Pomsky. Dahl and Pomsky, man, they're standing tall despite the Conqueror's Hockey blast. Which as a Vice Admiral fan, this might be the VA's biggest feat, not passing out due to Joy Boy's Conqueror's Hockey. Because let me tell you, this Conqueror's Hockey is powerful, man. We see Jupiter, Nasujiro, Saturn Saturn joins in here, by the way. Saturn was still in the middle of recovering from last week's attack when this blast happens. I mean, when you scroll up and you see all the Gorosei jumping off of shore and attacking all at once, you can actually see Saturn on the coast, and his leg is still, like, not attached to his body. So yeah, Saturn was chilling, man. The guy was still, you know, trying to get back up, only to get blasted right back down. What's crazy about this Conqueror's Hockey is that this is the first attack that has been truly effective on the Gorosei. We don't know if it actually causes damage that they can't recover from, but this damage is enough to force them back into their human forms, something that we have not seen yet here on this island. The blast is so crazy that the Gorosei actually get sent back home. So we're not too sure why they show back up at Marie Joie. You know, obviously it could be because the summoning circle gets undone. It could be the Gorosei saying, hey, let's avoid this damage and just teleport back home. Like we're not too sure why this happens, but it happened, right? You know, like JOYBOY'S Hockey caused it. You know, regardless of why, JOYBOY'S Hockey did it. What's really funny though, and I still chuckle when I see it, but when the Gorosei gets sent back to Marie Joie, you actually see Marcus Mars with his legs crossed, just chilling, dude. Dude, the Gorosei are huffing and puffing, and Mars is just like, you know, he's like, you guys got sent back too? I've been waiting for you guys, man. Come on. Yeah, I mean, with Mars, it's another weird one too, because we don't know if Mars came back home because the attack that Luffy, Bonnie, Frankie, and Sanji did that much damage to him, or if it's because he got flung so far away that he just said, F it, I'm just gonna go back home. Like, that's kind of the hard part, and the Gorosei don't exactly have too much dialogue here. You know, they're just like, huh. You know, like they're just going through it, and it's just so crazy to see, man. And this attack, this Haki, is so insane that it sends shivers down Emu's spine. Because we cut over to the flower room, and Emu is screaming, dude. The Gorosei are huffing and puffing, but Emu is screaming. So there's a couple things about this, right? It's either that JOYBOY'S Hockey was so powerful that Emu could feel it all the way at Marie Joie, or this could mean that the Gorosei are indeed all linked up to Emu, so when they felt damage, when they felt that Hockey, Emu felt it too. Or maybe the Gorosei teleported back and they had like JOYBOY'S residual Hockey there and Emu sniffed it or something, but either way, Emu senses it, and he actually screams, dude. He drops to his knees and he's just like, JOYBOY, man. The guy is shook. And I've seen people say that this is proof that Emu is a weak character, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Mainly because it could just be PTSD. You know, Emu's like, oh, like, it took so long to put JOYBOY down in the grave, I don't want to fight that guy again. There could definitely be a lot of reasons and layers as to why Emu is this shaken up by sensing JOYBOY again. So yeah, I don't think this makes Emu look bad in terms of power scaling, but I do think that this does make Emu lose a bit of aura for me, right? You know, when I think of a final villain, I think of an absolute hard ass, like Madara, for example. I think Madara is a great example for final villain, right? He's got the composure, he's always calm and collected, but Emu, man, they are shaken up. What I found kind of interesting is that Emu has a servant in that room alongside them, and this is a new servant from what I suspect. So obviously we have a really far distance shot of a silhouette here. It looks like they're actually wearing what seems to be a robe. So yeah, it looks like this could be a brand new character. I do suspect that this character and this character are both Holy Knights as well. Because when you think about it, how many people truly know that Emu exists, right? You got the Gorosei, and then the Holy Knights. Like, I don't think the everyday celestial dragon knows about Emu's existence, because they're all a bunch of idiots, right? Like, they're idiots, they're just eating and buying slaves and putting up taxes. Like, I doubt they know about Emu. So yeah, I definitely do feel like this character that we see in this chapter is definitely a Holy Knight. So now, we cut over back to the Straw Hats, and the Thousand Sunny has landed in the ocean! And nobody caught it, which I thought was actually kind of funny, right? Because a couple chapters ago, Nami called up Sanji and said, hey, we're going to fall from a sky island. You guys need to do something about this. You know, you have to break our fall. You have to catch us. And then they fell last chapter and they were still pretty worried about falling. And then this chapter, it turns out that nobody catches them and they just crash into the water. So I wonder if that'll have some implications later on, but then again, the Thousand Sunny is made out of atom wood, so I'm sure it'll be fine if Oda wants it to be. Outside of that, though, it looks like the Straw Hats are going to have a really peaceful time sailing to Elbaf. I mean, the Marines can't chase them, right? So we see a shot of the Marine ships in the background, but we have to keep in mind that when JOYBOY'S Hockey was unleashed, a lot of Marines passed out. Like, I don't think anybody's awake to actually chase the Straw Hats right now, minus the Vice Admirals. And I'm gonna be quite honest, but if the Vice Admirals, the only people awake on this island, chase the Straw Hats, they're cooked. You know, they're gonna be absolutely cooked. I mean, Kizaru might be their best bet, but I doubt Kizaru's gonna chase them. And even if they do, like, you know, Luffy versus Kizaru plus all the Straw Hats plus the Giants, Kizaru's not going to win that one, right? So yeah, it looks like the trip to Elbaf will be nice and quiet, which is kind of crazy to say, right? We're going to Elbaf, dude. It has been talked about for the past 1,000 chapters. I'm not even joking. No hyperbole, no nothing. But we learned about Elbaf almost 1,000 chapters ago. And here we are. We're going there, man. It's finally happening. I've seen people saying that we might make a pit stop on a different island, but I don't think so, right? I mean, based on Nami's log pose, the log pose only pointed to 3 islands. One of them was Winter's Island, which is where Blackbeard and Law fought, and then we have Elbaf, and then we have Egghead. Elbaf is in the middle, right? Like, so it makes sense that they would go right there, and Elbaf would just be the next stop. Like, I don't think we're gonna stop or, you know, go on a side mission or anything else like that. I feel like we are going to make a straight shot there, and maybe in the next couple of chapters, we'll see the island, man. We'll finally touch that Elbaf grass. Also, I just gotta say, but I really admire Oda's timing with this chapter. So this chapter should theoretically release, what is it? It's August right now. So if we go by the Shonen Jump time, this chapter should have released on the 4th, August 4th. And I think that's kind of notable because August 9th-10th is One Piece Day. And that's where Oda usually announces new arcs, new One Piece merchandise, video games, movies, and all that good stuff. So the end of Egghead Island actually fits in really nice with that live stream and that celebration. So yeah, I really admire Oda's pacing with this arc. So the next thing we see in this chapter is Emth, and the guy's eyes are still glowing. He's still in there, and Saturn is standing in front of him. And that is when we see a little flashback of Emth and, you know, some character, you know, some guy that just so happens to be Joy Boy. And it's crazy. This is the first actual silhouette we have of this man. You could say that the silhouette we got a couple chapters ago was also Joy Boy, and it is, but it wasn't an up-close shot like in this week's chapter. We see the straw hat, we see the cloak, and you know what else we see, guys? We see that he's a human! So, I mean, here's the thing. You know, he could be from a tribe. He could be like a 3-Eye or, you know, some other tribe that takes on a human size. But either way, he's not a giant. He's not a buccaneer. No. He is seemingly just a regular person. And I'm such a fan of it, man. I'm such a fan of it. You know, I will admit, as somebody who doesn't really like buccaneers or a lot of races in One Piece, and I'm not saying that as a joke. I know some people are like, there goes Sai, you know, joking again. I'm just not, dude. Like, that's how it is. You know, I like the humans, Lunarian, fishmen, and some minks. So when it comes to the Buccaneer Joy Boy and the giant Joy Boy theories, I was never really a big fan of them. So seeing Joy Boy here and getting this confirmation that he's not some weirdly shaped person, my heart's aflutter, dude. But of course, though, with this reveal, it does make us wonder why the hell is there a giant straw hat at Marie Joie? Because the straw hat we saw in the freezer with Emu is in no way, shape, or form the same straw hat that Joy Boy is wearing in this chapter. You know, like, that's not a thing. And of course, you know, since Joy Boy had Sun God Nika powers, he could go into his giant god form, but even when Luffy does it, his straw hat stays the same size. So it's not the same Straw Hat. You know, the Straw Hat that's in Imu's freezer belonged to somebody else. But who? You know, like, who could it belong to? Maybe Joy Boy had other Nakama that wore Straw Hats too. Maybe it belonged to an ancient giant. Maybe it belonged to another sun god Nika. You know, it's kind of crazy how Oda does it. He gives us one answer by revealing Joy Boy here, but he also gives us another one because now we have to recontextualize that freaking Straw Hat. But yeah, I love it, dude. Now it makes sense as to why Emth thought that Luffy was Joy Boy, considering they had the Straw Hat too. One thing that's kind of notable, and a lot of people have been pointing this out, and I didn't see this at first, but apparently, Joy Boy might have a peg leg and or hook arm. So as far as the hook arm goes, for me, I don't see it. I really just see him spreading his hands like this, but for the peg leg, I definitely could see it, right? And the reason why is because Oda has talked about how there are no pirates in One Piece that look like the stereotypical pirates you see in a lot of media, right? Like, you got the peg legs, you got the little parrot, you got the eye patch and the big hat. Like, Oda typically doesn't do that. And he's acknowledged that he hasn't done it. And he's been saving those tropes for a specific character we will see near the end of the story. And what better character to give a peg leg or an eye patch to than Joy Boy? So yeah, I personally feel like that is pretty dang plausible here. Another thing to point out with Joy Boy and his silhouette is that Oda also silhouettes the foreground, right? We see the ocean in the backdrop, but as far as the trees and what Joy Boy is standing on, that is all silhouetted. And seeing that weird square building that Joy Boy's standing on, my mind immediately went to two different things. The first one being that this could be a poneglyph. Maybe Joy Boy is standing on a massive one. But that wouldn't exactly make sense since there's a tree that is coming out of said square block. So the next thing I went to was Zoe, right? If you look at Zoe that is atop of Zunisha's back right now, there are a lot of weird square buildings that do have trees on them. So perhaps that is where this conversation is taking place. So yeah, back to the conversation though. Joy Boy says, hey Emth, I am going to seal my most powerful haki inside of you. You know, when you need it the most, make sure to untie this knot and then everything will be good. You know, I want to save you one last time from the past. And that's insane. We have never before seen haki stored up like this. This is the ancient kingdom technology here, guys. Just rope and knot, right? So yeah, it's insane, but it also reminds me very much of what we saw in Witheria. Right? In Nami's training arc, we saw that Nami had a piece of rope. And the minute you undid the rope, wind would come out of it. It would produce it. And there were multiple knots to it. I think the max we saw was 3 knots. And then as she did all 3 of them, the wind got stronger, stronger, and stronger. So I'm wondering if this is the same technology we saw there. But either way, though, the fact that Joy Boy was able to put his haki into rope, and that same rope, you know, goes through 900 years of aging and is able to unleash a blast this powerful is crazy. The blast sent the Gorosei back into their human forms. You know, this is something that Luffy, with all of his haki, was not able to do here on Egghead. So I wonder if Luffy will get this type of haki, whatever it is. You know, I'm kind of viewing it as another form of advanced conquerors, maybe like implementation Conqueror's Hockey. I know it's an awful name for it, but I'm sure we'll get better terminology as time goes on. But it kind of reminds me of how, you know, we had basic armament, and then we had advanced armament, which is what Katakuri had. We had observation haki, then we had future sight. Like, there's just so many different ways haki can evolve. And then we have Conqueror's coding. You know, in Volume 4 Billion, they said that Shanks has the ability to cancel other people's haki with his haki. And then, not to mention, we also saw Shanks send a direct signal of Conqueror's haki to Aramaki. So it's like, yeah, dude, like, I feel like haki will get more and more crazy as time goes on. And I quite honestly love the new ways Oda is finding ways to make haki feel new after all this time, right? You know, for Devil Fruits, it's easy. Like, oh, let's give this guy this transformation, or let's give, you know, this guy this power that we haven't done before. But for Haki, it's like, it's just willpower, but it's able to do so much. It's all encompassing, right? And also, I wouldn't mind if this level of Haki is what is required in order to hurt the Gorosei and permanently damage them. Of course, that is just a hypothetical. We still don't know if the Gorosei are, you know, wounded and if they can't recover, or if they're simply like blasted, you know, like it's hard to tell. We don't see blood wounds, we don't see the regeneration clouds around them, they're not transformed, so it is still up in the air. But I wouldn't mind if the way to hurt the Gorosei is something that anyone can achieve due to hard work and determination and willpower, mind you, right? I think Haki is a great power system in a way because it puts everybody on an equal playing field, right? You want to hurt the Gorosei? Just have amazing Haki and train yourself up. It pretty much just boils down to a skill issue. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. What do you think about JOYBOY'S Haki and how he's implemented it into rope? Do you think this actually did hurt the Gorosei or no? Do you think it simply just blasted him out and that's the end of that story? And we still have to find a different way on how to hurt them. And also, how will Luffy achieve this level of Haki, right? Who's gonna mentor Luffy now that we're in the final saga? You know, we're not gonna go back to Rayleigh. You know, we're not gonna spar Katakuri until he beats Future Sight into us. You know, we're not gonna fight and die to Kaido 10 times and unlock Conqueror's coding. Like, how are we going to train up when we hit Elbaf? Will the Giants do it? Will Loki do it? Will we learn some history and try some ancient techniques? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions down below. Oh yeah, real quick, but one thing I breezed by a lot earlier on, and it's kind of weird bringing it back now, but a lot of people were banking on the theory that Saturn was going to land in water this chapter, and we would see if the Gorosei had devil fruits, or if they're actual demons and they can actually swim and stuff. But Oda puts him on land, right? Like, when we go to him, you know, when he's recovering in that little panel where I showed you where his leg is missing, he's on land. Dude, last chapter when Luffy and Bonnie hit him, you saw nothing but the great blue sea behind this guy. You know, the Straw Hats are pretty well off the island. You're telling me they hit him all the way back to the island so we can land safely on grass? That's crazy, man. Yeah, I think Oda knows what he's doing here. He doesn't want to show us the answer. But then again, we could also view this as an answer, saying, oh, if Saturn hit the water, then he'd be cooked, you know, like, so let's just put him on land. I don't know how I feel about the Gorosei yet and what they actually are. But with that being said, I do think we got a pretty big hint this week, since IMU felt JOYBOY'S Haki and the Gorosei felt it too. So I think it all ties back to IMU, and he's probably the one who gave them their powers in the first place, which I don't think is super crazy. I mean, just looking at Luffy, right? Luffy has the Sun God Nika powers. Bonnie has Sun God Nika powers now. If more people end up getting Sun God Nika powers in the future, it would just make sense if the enemy team had a ability that was akin to that. So if Imu gives his darkness demon powers to the Gorosei and Holy Knights, I feel like that would be pretty fitting. So now though, back to Emth for a minute. If you look at the flashback pictures of him, he actually has an X on his arm, but he doesn't have it here present day. So it's like, yo, what is that? Well, was that like a temporary tattoo, like how the Straw Hats threw up the X for Vivi? Or perhaps is it a symbol for something else? You know, outside of the Vivi X, the only X that we have in the crew that's prominent is, of course, the X that Luffy has on his chest, but there's also Chopper's hat. So yeah, that small detail has me kind of, you know, rubbing my chin. Like, what is Oda cooking here, you know? Is Oda perhaps hinting at some Joy Boy events that happened in the past with his crew? I don't know. You guys let me know your theories down below. So a couple of interesting things about Emth though. First up, in the final panels of this chapter, we actually see some musical notes pop up around Emth, and I think that's pretty fitting for a couple of different reasons. First up, we know that Emth is powered by JOYBOY'S heartbeat, so having musical notes in the background during a simple conversation like this makes a lot of sense. But also, it makes me wonder if JOYBOY was able to use the Drums of Liberation while in his normal form, right? Because if that's what's happening in that final panel, then it could be something that Luffy does in the future, right? Luffy is in his normal form, but the Drums of Liberation, his heartbeat, is still beating really loudly for everyone around him. And then, bouncing off of that, I don't think Emth is done. I feel like we could still see more of Emth in the future, and that's simply because Emth is a robot. I don't think that he's dead just because he lost a part of his body. I think the only reason he's not alive in the final panel is simply because Luffy's heartbeat isn't playing right now, right? Luffy is long gone from Egghead Island, so much so that the heartbeat, the drums of liberation, aren't reaching Emth anymore, and that is why he is now powered down. So, you know, going back to the lore of Emth real quick, a long time ago, I think it was like 200 years ago, after Emth stopped attacking Marijra and powered down, they didn't know how to dispose of him. So that is why they shipped him off to some scientists, and that is eventually how he landed here on Egghead Island. So I wonder if Saturn is going to try to dispose of Emth once again, or if he's simply going to bring Emth back to the Holy Land and experiment on him. Because we have to remember that Saturn is the Gorosei of science. So now it's Saturn's responsibility, and I'm really curious to see what he's going to do with Emth. Actually, I'm going to be quite honest. I wonder what Saturn's going to do about a lot of Egghead Island. I mean, the island is still on fire. Like, in that panel, you can see like smoke and debris and fire all around him. So with the island in this state, I wonder what he's going to do. Is he just going to let it burn down all the way? Or will he stop it so that he can retrieve Punk Records, York, and the Mother Flame? Because he definitely wants those things, right? Like, how is he going to transport Punk Records back to Marijra? You know, how is he going to get the Mother Flame and bring it back home with him? Well, we're not too sure how that's going to work yet. And also, we haven't seen York in quite some time either. So, is she even around anymore? Like, is she awake? Did she pass out from the Conqueror's Hockey blast from 900 years ago? A lot of questions, man. A lot of questions. But yeah, with that being said, though, that is all I have for this week's chapter. I know, short video, but there's not a lot to talk about. I wanted to keep it short, sweet, and concise. But hey, thank you guys so much. There is a break next week, by the way. Not Oda's fault. It is a Shonen Jump break. But there will still be a lot of One Piece information coming out. And also, since it is a magazine break, there is a chance that spoilers could still, you know, get flown into the mainstream. So if that happens, if the chapter does drop next week, I will be back for it. And of course, we'll be here to talk about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out this video with me. I really freaking appreciate it. Let me know all your thoughts about this chapter down below. Please like, comment, and sub. I would really, really appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys later. Sai, signing out.